What's up guys, welcome back to another devlog video. This video is going to focus a lot more on what we did this week when it comes to our cards. If you're not familiar with the project, of course it's a code name Deck Knight. It's a game that we're building from scratch using Unreal Engine 5 and the gameplay ability system plugin. And the core of the game is that we're blending, or at least attempting to blend, real-time action, combat, melee combat, with the use of deck building mechanics so that you can use these cards, you can upgrade these cards, you can find new cards, you can level these cards up, and basically use these cards to amplify your character's abilities in order to make them more effective. It's different types of enemies, stronger mobs, bigger waves of mobs, and everything like that. So this week, it was a bigger focus and a push to really get the progression in place. And obviously there's a long way to go. We're only scratching the surface for the progression, but I wanted to get a sense of what these cards could do and how I can use that for my data assets, and how I kind of funneled that data into the gameplay ability system through gameplay effects and gameplay abilities through specific levels. And so the basic idea here is that each card will have up to 5 levels. That could be subject to change. It could be 3 levels. We'll have to see what makes the most sense for the game. But you can level up these cards the more times you use them. So it's like individual card progression, where if you use the same card maybe 50 times, right, it'll level up to its level 2 variation, which could mean a couple of different things depending on the card. More often than not, it could just increase the potency of the card, increase its duration if it's duration based, but it could also introduce additional passive effects if we wanted to. And so as you're leveling it up, and as you're using the card more often, it will become stronger up until some cap. And I think that'll be pretty interesting just because it gives you a reason to stay true to a specific deck, and you can also kind of have you just try new cards and level up those cards, and then go back to previous cards that you leveled up and see how they synergize or how they don't synergize. And I think it'll play a lot into the deck building mechanics that I want to achieve for the game. So that's why I wanted to explore what we could possibly do. And I'll show you how I implemented that as well. But I'll show you using a specific card. So right now, there's a card called Crit Crazy, which the description reads, increases critical chance by X%. At some point, hopefully soon, we'll have to kind of update our system in order to read the data from our data tables or curve tables to kind of fill in the description appropriately. And I'll also have to figure out what the language of the cards will need to be. Minimal text, obviously enough text that kind of lets you know what the card's about, and also just viable information at a glance. But until then, we'll have to just see what happens. But additionally, I'll just need to make sure that it can, at runtime, pull the appropriate card level and pull from the appropriate curve table entry and just be able to display that text to the player. But for example, what this card does is it increases the critical chance by X%, and it also increases the critical damage that you do for an extended period of time. So I forget the exact numbers right now. Let's look at that together. So if we look into our curve table, I will scale this up so we can all see. We have crit chance modifier for Crit Crazy, we have crit chance crit damage modifier, and then we have crit chance duration. So at level 1, critical chance is 20%. At level 1, critical damage modifier is 50%, so you get 1.5 times damage, and the duration is 3 seconds. So obviously these numbers are just made up at the moment. No balancing or progression balancing has been made with these numbers. I just wanted to showcase what this good stuff can do. And we basically have everything that exists within a card data asset, and this is also something I want to talk about soon, later on in this video. But yeah, this is where this data would live, right? The card name, the card description, the card type. So we have active ability cards, passive ability cards, global passives, consumables, and stuff like that. Right now, everything is an active ability card until we start updating our UI to support passives and summon cards and instant cards and stuff like that. Then we have our card icon, and then we have the card ability set, which is an ability set which has attributes you can grant, gameplay effects you can grant, and abilities you can grant and activate. And included in that is the card level. So right now it is just a number 1 through 5. There's no progression just yet in terms of how many times you need to play a card in order to level it up and have that kind of data live in some sort of data asset or curve table or something like that. That's something to kind of move on in a bit later with the project. I don't know when, this year for sure, but I just wanted to get the level in the data asset so that we can read and possibly write to it, and then eventually save it, and so you can load up the data when you restart the game. So with this level, what we do is in our gameplay effect, we read that level, because when we activate the card and grant that card, we pass in that ability level to the effects that we're granting. So at level 1, we pull from this curve table, CT card data, we get crit chance duration as 3 seconds, right? And the same thing goes for crit chance and crit damage modifier. So let's look at it at level 1. So if I play and I'll spawn a guy, and so I'll activate Crit Crazy and I'll start attacking, and we'll see if we'll get a 20% chance of increased damage. It's already been 3 seconds, so it didn't seem like it worked. So as an example then, if I were to increase this to level 5, and we look at level 5, right? So my crit chance modifier is 100%, the damage modifier is 2.5 times, and the duration is 15 seconds. So let's activate that card again at level 5. Now you're seeing crits like crazy every single time, and it's going to last for a long time. So obviously, the numbers may not be perfect for a level 1. It seems like it's it's hard to get a critical chance. Maybe it needs to be like, 50%, or maybe the duration is longer by default, but you got the basic idea. So each card kind of has this sort of leveling to them. And so, for example, we also have like our fireball. So when I grant my fireball, I grant it, and then I do right bumper X, and now I'm a fireball. And I've shown this before with the project. If you've watched my TikToks and my YouTube shorts, you'll see this ability. But included with this fireball, and I'll pull up the data asset for it. So we should have evasive fireball, or it's under test card. Yeah, it's under test card. We have GA Fireball. And you'll see from GA Fireball, we get this get ability level, and we're feeding that into a bunch of different things. Like when we're applying burn, we're applying the ability level for that burn effect as well, because burn can have different levels to it, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that can increase durations, that can increase strengths. And eventually I want to have different tiers of status effects. So, if you apply level 5 burn, it turns it into like a volcanic status effect, and that causes a volcano to erupt and shoot things out and cause burn across multiple different enemies. But then we also have information about the radius of the fireball that then pulls from the card data. So we have fireball duration, fireball radius, all of that pulls from the curve table, and it's all read from the ability level from the card data asset. So if I were to make this level 5, for example, and I spawn a guy, I activate our card, and now I'm a huge fireball, right? And obviously this is all prototypes, but you get the basic idea. And so it'd be interesting to me, at least, to have different levels for these cards. And as you get new cards, as you update your deck, as you level up your cards, possible new synergies may come alive or give you more opportunities to get more synergies. So in cases where you have passive cards that have super long durations, as you level up that card, the duration will increase, therefore giving you a little bit more opportunity to synergize with other cards. So like if you have a passive card that applies burn on melee hits and it lasts 10 seconds, then you have 10 seconds to possibly earn more card resources to activate a card that maybe has a passive increases fire damage. Or a card that says, okay, all enemies currently burning, they will explode with more damage, and you get to pull some like health back into your pool. Things like that. We'll have to just see exactly what these cards will do. I'm just first working on the architecture of how these cards will be built and the data and how they flow together. One of the issues that I'm currently running into, and that I'll be solving next week and the week after that, just depending on how long it is really how do I encapsulate all the data into one place? Like right now I have a separation between the card data asset, which contains the card names and the descriptions and the card types and the card icon. And then it also holds the ability set. And it's within the ability set that handles granting the gameplay effects or the gameplay abilities or the attributes and passing in the ability level. But from this ability system, ability set, I can't really bring in the card icon, because the card icon I think needs to live on the data asset level of the card, but it needs to be fed into the gameplay ability in order to update the card icon, because the UI relies on the ability CDO, the default object of the ability that's granted and activated. So I feel like I need to do a copy of this card icon to that granted ability so that it lives there and then it can be read by the UI. But maybe there's other ways to do it. There's probably better ways to do it. So I'm curious what you guys think, what can be improved on this data level, where things should be handled. Because again, the card ability set is what handles granting everything to the ability system, but maybe the card data asset should be the one responsible for doing that and just pulling the information from the card ability set. And what I'm doing inside of the card ability set in code, all of this data is soft references, just because I don't want to have a full hard reference to all these gameplay effects and gameplay abilities, just because it can cause huge size maps and can cause too much to load at a given time. So I use soft references for both the gameplay effects and the gameplay abilities. Not much the attribute sets, because those are pretty lightweight. But in the code, I load all the gameplay effects and I load all the gameplay abilities using the stream manager. Load those up, make sure they're all ready to go, and then when the card is activated, those can be immediately granted. So like the flow of logic is the card is given to the player in their hand. That's when everything is loaded into memory, so that by the time you activate the card, the gameplay effects are ready to go, the ability is ready to go. There's not going to be much of a hitch, hopefully not any. If I were to do it the other way, where everything is soft referenced and then loaded at the moment you try to activate it, there might be too much of a delay, or maybe some possible issue that doesn't give you that instant satisfaction. So I would try to do it when the card is first granted, just so it gives you a little bit of downtime between it's granted and you activating it. So for example, if I look at one of my card data, so let's pull up one of the card data assets here, right? So it has the text and the ability set. If I had to right click on it and go to size map, you'll see it's 416 bytes. If I were to do the same thing for like the evasive fireball, also pretty lightweight, because everything is soft references at that time. It's soft class references. And so the card is granted, everything's loaded, you activate it, everything's then granted to the ability system. So the next steps for me, like I've been saying, I need to work on the UI. Like right now we made some strides using some of the marketplace assets from Fab. We got some frames that we can work with to make the UI look a little bit better. So we have like 5 active ability slots, and the first one's unlocked by default. I'll need to drive these, I think, by attributes and attribute sets, so that we know and can track how many of these you've unlocked, how many are currently locked. And then this is another form of progression for the player, being able to slot multiple active abilities at once from cards. And again, these cards can vary on what they do in terms of activation. So one could be activated and remain active for a duration. One can be an instant activation. One might be an activation that you then need to target and then execute on. Some can be stacked, so you could have multiple cards that do the same ability. So if you activate more than one at one time, and one's already slotted, it can stack, so you can activate that card multiple times before it's slotted out. But then, of course, when you only have one ability slot, only one can be active at one time. So if you have something already slotted into that ability slot and you activate another active ability card, it will replace that one. So it should motivate the player to keep leveling up and exploring and finding new synergies. I think I'll have 2 ability slots open by default. I feel like one might be too restrictive at the start. I don't want to give players the wrong impression and kind of make it feel too slow. But that'll come with playtesting, and we'll just kind of see how that goes. And then once we have that logic working, we'll move over to the passives. So I want to have passive ability slots that you would see more on the left-hand side. Those would be more akin to boons that you would see in games like Hades, but they will all still be kind of temporary. So it's your goal to find cards that work well with your build, level up those cards so that they become more synergizable, they live longer, they do more, and then just finding the right set of cards that work with the build and against the enemies and the waves of enemies, the types of enemies, the counterplay from the AI, trying to work that all in combination with the actual active real-time combat of the game. So some of these cards could affect your melee combo, some could make it stronger, some could open possibilities for like the heavy attack. There could be a lot to synergize with, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that could evolve. So thanks for watching. Make sure to follow on Twitch if you want to see the live stream where we work on this project. You'll also see those on YouTube, so if you're already subscribed, make sure to tune in for those live streams. And tell me what you think about the project. I'm definitely interested in hearing more from you guys. If you think this is an interesting idea, if you think this can't work. You know, in the back of my head, I feel like this might be just too much cognitive overload for players to be able to balance and manage these cards you have to switch to at quick succession, knowing exactly what the battlefield's doing, what exactly your character's doing, knowing what your health's doing, how much card resource you have. So I'm curious if you guys have any references that I can look into, if you guys share the same concerns, or if you think it's an interesting idea and maybe it's only an issue of progression and making sure players kind of learn more slowly so they don't have access to too many cards at one time. And it's kind of like a learning curve that, you know, the players earn that feeling of mastery when they can go through and cycle through 5 cards at a time, slot in a bunch of cards at one time, get it all to hook in together to get the like ultimate payoff. So yeah, definitely curious on that. So definitely stay tuned for the future. And thanks for watching.